he described the defendants to us, and though he never soft-pedaled their crimes, he avoided gruesome details. As my siblings attest, my parents wanted us to be aware of international realities, but at the same time provide a safe haven at home. As a result, there were elements of the trial that remained mysterious. As the years passed, and as my own curiosity about the world grew, there were things I wanted to ask my father about Nuremberg. Who else had a father, after all, who had known Hermann Goering, Alfred Rosenberg, Albert Speer, Joachim von Ribbentrop, and other Nazi big boys, as he called them? When I became a student of the law, I was fascinated by the idea of Nuremberg and by its principles. There had never been a trial like it before, and its very existence proved enormously controversial. I thought of my father's service in a tribunal that sought not only to punish war criminals, but also to demonstrate the capacity of the Allies to follow and uphold the rule of law, even when a cry for vengeance was heard from all quarters. Civilized countries would produce a fair trial even for mass murderers who didn't seem to deserve one. Winston Churchill was against the very idea, and favored summary execution. The Soviet Union, never known for its extended efforts on behalf of its accused, had similar ideas. There were well-known American critics as well, including the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Harlan Fiske Stone, who called the idea Jackson's lynching expedition. Others argued that indictments would be ex post facto, in that the Nazis would be tried for international crimes that hadn't been explicitly on the books. The argument that eventually prevailed was based on two powerful ideas. By trying those who carried out a criminal war, a complete record of their actions could be shown to the world, therefore announcing once and for all that such behavior would not be tolerated by the community of civilized nations. And in giving the defendants a chance to hear the evidence against them and to defend themselves, the Allies would take the moral and legal high ground. As Jackson said in his opening statement, that 4 great nations, flushed with victory and stung with injury, stay the hand of vengeance and voluntarily submit their captive enemies to the judgment of the law, is one of the most significant tributes that power has ever paid to reason. People like my father set a clear and binding standard, saying, in effect, that here precisely is what happened as a result of tyranny, and that any attempt to repeat such behavior would be seen for what it is. We were naive, of course, in this view. Since Nuremberg, the world has demonstrated time and again its capacity to stun us with outrage and inhumanity. Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, Darfur. Yet there is no doubt that Nuremberg remains more than an event of historical significance. It has become a word in the language that reminds us of ultimate collective responsibility for aggression, racism, and crimes against humanity. All this I understood. But what was the inside story of Nuremberg? How had my father risen from a relatively low-ranking member of Jackson's enormous staff to be the man who often was in charge of the proceedings? The whole thing seemed odd and ironic to me. In a way, the Nuremberg defendants had known my father during that time in a way my siblings and I never could. Albert Speer had written, in Inside the Third Reich, that my father was sharp and aggressive. Franz von Papen, the former vice-chancellor of Germany, wrote in his memoirs that my father was polite, correct, even kind, and that after the trial — he was one of the 3 defendants acquitted — my father gave him a box of Havana cigars. My father's courtroom achievements were recalled on the 60th anniversary of the trials by Der Spiegel, the German magazine. The star of the courtroom was Thomas Dodd. He had the gift, in lawyers' jargon, of being able to make the evidence sing.